Yo, what's poppin' low gang on the AT4040? I'm still mentioning this at the beginning of each rant because it's a new microphone. Today's rant comes from Neon Manta, who says, since Valentine's Day is today, forcing you to release this day of now. Forcing you to release this day of, what the fuck? Okay, release this day. I think there was a missed word there or something like that, or maybe I'm just not reading it correctly. I feel like I might just not be reading it correctly, but anyway, there's no better time to talk about love. Rants about all of your waifus, specifically styled after this BGE video, where you rank all of them in the following tiers: meme tier, DTF sluts tier, amazing tier, perfection tier, and Elder God tier. In the interest of saving time, you can provide detailed explanations only for your meme and Elder God tier wives. So, I skimmed the BGE video ranking all of his anime wives and waifus. And I have one big issue with it. He doesn't fucking explain the tiers. I get the sense that, Elder God tier is relatively self-explanatory. Same with perfection and amazing tier. Meme tier is fairly self-explanatory. But DTF sluts is really the one that confused me, because on the Google Doc he links at in the description of the video, he says, read as ideal women. And I'm just like, but hold on, aren't the Elder God tier, isn't that the ideal woman? And so I've decided to put my own spin on this. In the BGE rant, he starts with the DTF sluts tier, which implies that it's less than amazing tier, but then it said read as ideal women, which should be Elder God tier. So I have my own spin on it, right? I'm not going to start with the DTF sluts. That's actually going to be my last tier. It's going to be the women that I would literally want to live with, who would literally, as is, be able to, be perfectly dateable. Because the way I see waifus, right? First of all, I think Neon is way more into the concept of a waifu than I am. His favorite characters list on Mal is literally just his anime wives, whereas mine are the actual literal characters that I think are the best written and most interesting and appeal to me the most. And I, don't typically think about that when I'm watching a show. I mean, sure, it just kind of happens in my brain that I'm like, oh yeah, that character is, physically attractive, or maybe something about them resonates with me on the level of being able to maybe, have a life with them. But at the same time, it's not often on my mind. So I really had to comb through my Annie list and go through all the shows that I've watched and be like, okay, which of these characters resonated with me enough to be just be able to be put on this list. And I've got a fairly expansive list of them. There are very few in the Elder God tier. Only 2, in fact. But the latter tiers are fairly populated because I lowered the bar significantly for them. So I'm just going to read them out. Amazing tier. And mind you, I'm not going to explain every single girl on this list. So I'll just stop and pause whenever there's an interesting explanation I want to give. So Rinko Yamato, pretty self-explanatory. She's from Ore Monogatari. Anko Aguisu, the reason why she isn't higher is because I like her aesthetic and personality more than, per se, her physical appearance. Even though I do think she is hot. I guess she's more of the mommy-dommy type, and I'm not really into that. She seems like she would be a top. Whereas you'll see on this list as we go on, I like girls with long hair. I like them who are small, short, have a small chest, but not quite lolicon. I'm not a lolicon. I would not consider myself that, and that's going to come into play very specifically, very late on, so look out for that. So just small women who have softer, more docile personalities. But there are exceptions to this. Like I said, Anko Aguisu. We've also got Vignette from Gabdrop, Elma, and Toru, who are extremely attractive, and I like maids, and so Toru gets on there. But I guess they're not quite good enough to be outside of amazing tier. Whereas another Dragon Maid character, Neon, you already know who it is in a tier higher than this. Miyako Shirakawa from Imose, she's the hottest character in that series. Kobeni from Chainsaw Man, who I like and think is attractive, and I love her personality, but she just isn't, how much I actually like the character also plays a huge part in this list. And so Kobeni to me is more of a meme character as of this point in Chainsaw Man. I know that she is supposed to get better as the series goes on and as I watch the anime, because I'm an anime only. But for now, Kobeni, I guess her personality just isn't quite developed enough for me to put her higher, even though she could feasibly go higher as the list goes on. So we've got Chiho and Yukari from Yu Yu Shiki, all of the Bochi girls, all of them are on the same tier, and they're in the amazing tier. Mihari Oyama, because she can fix me, and because she's one of the few characters in that series that isn't like a 4th grader. Minami Naname from Tomozaki. You might expect her to be higher. She is going to play... I'm going to mention her later, let's say. But for now, Minami Naname... as a waifu, I do like her. I like her personality. But, I guess she just isn't the hottest character in fiction. Even though we are literally... I am literally Minami Naname. So, Kirikomori from Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, final character in amazing tier. So now we've got perfection tier, which I'm going to start with Miwa Kasumi. Everyone saw this coming. You might wonder why she isn't an Elder God tier, but she's a bit more of a seasonal waifu, first of all, and I hate putting any seasonal waifu on a high tier in this list. But as well, and this is the main thing holding her back from Elder God tier, she isn't literally useless. The joke is that she's useless Miwa, and... no, she doesn't contribute to anything, doesn't do anything, right? She tries to contribute and can't do anything, but she isn't literally useless. She does actually have skill, and I feel like if they just hard pivoted into the gag, she would instantly become Elder God tier, just because I like her personality, I love her design, it's super appealing, and I just love this idea that she's useless. And you'll see me kind of hype up how useless she is in the podcast, when I think she's a lot more useful in the show than she is in my head, if that makes sense. So this is a new one, Hayat from Excel Saga. And I actually recorded an entire 2-minute rant about how much I love her, because I've been watching Excel Saga. I actually watched an episode of it this morning. Unfortunately, it was one of the worst episodes that I've seen of the show, but it was still fun, still had some funny moments, and Hayat was once again the star of the show in that episode, as she usually is. And the point of Hayat is that she is a parody of sickly anime girls, to the point where she is literally dying. She dies and revives, and she baffles science in the process. And to me, what it does is, the point of sickly anime girl is that you want to protect her, because she is frail, and she needs that protection. But for Hayat, she's so over the top with it, that on the surface it's just a funny joke, but it also makes you want to protect her even more, and that's kind of why she's on this list. Every non-Hifumi character from New Game is also in this tier. Every non-Hifumi character, you'll see why in a minute. But New Game consistently has the most attractive cast of characters in fiction. That's objective fact. We've got Tsubasa Hanakawa from Monogatari, which I think is the hottest Monogatari girl. Senju Gahara isn't on here, sue me. And the reason why she isn't an Elder God tier, she's one of those characters that just has a little something holding her back that makes you feel like she should be an Elder God tier, but she's just got this one asterisk, and it's the fact that she cuts her hair. I know that a lot of people think she's hotter with the haircut. I think she's at her hottest with the twin tails, and I wish she kept them. But, she still looks good with the short hair. Even though, once again, I'm not the biggest fan of it, I wish she kept the twin tails. If she had kept the twin tails, she'd probably be an Elder God tier, but unfortunately she did not. Akane Kurakawa from Oshinoko, Kobayashi from Dragon Maid. And the reason why she's here, she She just seems someone fun to live with. And also she's, yeah, absurdly hot and gets drunk all the time. That's based. I just love everything about her. She's extremely attractive and appealing to me, and I love her personality. I love her as a character. I love everything about her. Yuki Nagito from Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And the reason why she's on here, she's hyper deadpan, and she does have short hair. She's one of the few characters who has bucked the trend and has gotten on here even with their short hair. The only other one, I'm pretty sure, is fucking Hajime from New Game, who I didn't explicitly mention, but is nonetheless on here. They make up the deficit by rocking it. And Nagato rocks it. I also just love her extremely robotic personality. And finally, the final two on this list, Tomo Kunagisa and Jun Aikawa from Zaregoto. Tomo Kunagisa really should be an Elder God here, tier. But the issue is, sometimes Take draws her a little too much like a child. You know, I like small women, right? I like them absolutely tiny. I had a fucking community post about it, because it's funny. But at the same time, sometimes, like, in the literal description of the book, E remarks that she basically has the body of, I forget how old he said, but it was fairly young, and I was like, I need to pretend I didn't read that. But the issue is sometimes she's also drawn that way, like specifically at the beginning of Volume 4 of Zaregoto, when E's doing her hair. And I guess the issue for me is, once again, I wouldn't fancy myself a lolicon. I like small women, but as soon as they get to the lolly tier, I'm like, no thank you. Because I have the opposite of that fetish. And so, I guess my issue is when she's drawn like on the V1 cover, I think she's pretty much fit for Elder God tier, but when she's just a little too inconsistent, where sometimes Take will draw her a little too childlike, and I don't necessarily like that. Even though her personality completely resonates with me. I love her personality to death. She's like this neat hikikomori borderline, still sees people, but is such a shut-in that, like, she barely goes outside. She just holes up and stays on her computer all day and hacks people and is a techie. And I just love her. I love her personality. I love everything about her. Jun Aikawa, love her design. I think she is one of the hottest characters in fiction. But once again, a little too mommy-dommy, where I can't see her being anything but a top, and I'm not necessarily as into that. And now we get to the Elder God tier, which there are only two characters in. One, Hifumi Takemoto. Everyone should have seen this coming. I fell in love with her when I was like 15, and ever since then, she's been at the top of my waifu list. If I had to choose one waifu, it would probably be Hifumi Takemoto, even though, once again, I don't necessarily engage in waifu culture. But she would be it. And I really need to rewatch New Game. That's an issue with me. I want to re-experience it and re-experience Hifumi's personality again just to be sure of my pick. But 15-year-old me loved her to death, and I still do. And the other girl on here is Osaka from Azumanga Daioh. And she's on here for a completely different reason, where she isn't like sex goddess or anything, but rather, her personality is so funny. She is perpetually spaced out, a complete idiot, just barely even, there's not a single thought in her brain. And it just seems like it'd be fun to live with her. Like, I don't lewd her in my head or anything, it's not like that. It's this completely different thing where it's like, I just want to be around her. She's like a scientific marvel. Like, how is she even alive? She has no thoughts in her brain. But that's what's so fun about her. And so that's why I would put Osaka in the Elder God tier. Now for the meme tier. I'm just going to list out a Google Doc that I've been keeping of my own called Niche Anime Women, which is a list of anime girls who are unreasonably attractive but extremely niche. Characters that if I said the name of, you would literally not even know who they are. They have like negative people who have favorited them on my anime list. I fucking forgot something. Hold on. I need to do a side rant before I get to this. Because I know that Neon requested this and is watching this, and so I just need to tell him this. Kitagawa, if you put Kitagawa on, like, even perfection tier or elder god tier in a waifu tier list, you have the most boring taste in women imaginable, and I am not sorry for it. Kitagawa is one of the most boring waifus possible. If you actually put her high tier, I actively lose respect for your taste in women when I see that. She's the most generic, okay, as a character, she's good. But as a waifu, she's the most basic, basically handcrafted to be attractive to everyone. She's like the blonde, hot gyaru girl who's energetic and flirty. Oh, big deal. Yeah, get a more interesting fucking girl. Everyone on my tier list, I feel like everyone in the higher tiers has like something very specific about them that you can latch onto, or they're not necessarily the most popular option. I have actual explanations for why I like them. But with Kitagawa, it's just, oh yeah, I got the most generically perfect women possible, and that's why she's on top tier. No, she's not in any of my tiers because she's hot, sure, but she's like the most basically, generically, uninterestingly hot character imaginable. Like, yeah, of course she's attractive. She was custom designed to be attractive. How could she not be? It's that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I lose respect for you if you put Kitagawa high on your waifu tier list. Anyway, niche anime women. A list of anime girls who are unreasonably attractive but extremely niche. You don't even know who they are. If you know who any of these are, congrats. So, Raika from Onimai. Raika is unironically the hottest Onimai character. And she's the barber from episode 5. She's the blue-haired barber who just exists, and she's there, and she cuts Mahiro's hair. And why is she so attractive? Why did they put so much effort into her design? The world may never know. Kirara Yamagata from Imose. She is Nayuta Kani's editor, and she has a drawing of her in the novels. She appears briefly in the anime. I think she actually has 2 drawings of her in the novels that I've read so far. Super hot, super attractive. She's perpetually fed up with Nayuta, but sticks with her because she likes her novels so much. I like that dynamic they have, even though it's barely present. Kirara Yamagata is barely in the novels at all, and Natsume Hashima, also from Imose, is even more barely in the novels, I meant to say. Because she's Itsuki's stepmom. His biological mom is dead, rest in peace. She is this girl who, she starts off as a hostess who has a bit more of a rowdy design, but then she's got messy hair, but as you go on, she falls in love with Itsuki's dad, his biological dad this time, and, they fall in love, have Chihiro. Well, no, they don't have Chihiro. She had Chihiro with her boyfriend before she met Itsuki's dad. And I just like her aesthetic of this mom with really, messy hair who, maybe didn't have, she had a job as a hostess, but then became, this domestic housewife. I don't know. That's pretty attractive to me. I like it. That one blonde hoodlum from Dragon Maid S. I forget the exact episode. Toru and Elma are roaming the streets and they meet all these hoodlums. And this blonde hoodlum girl, she's like the only girl in the crowd, is among them. And she's unreasonably attractive. But, barely any people noticed her. She's one of the inspirations for this Google Doc. Yamada from New Game, she's the nurse, and also I think works some other jobs. But I just know her as the nurse, and she's this unreasonably shy girl. I like her. Neon likes her. Ishii from Girls Last Tour. She's one of the 4 characters in that show, which made me question whether she should even be on the list at all, because once again, Girls Last Tour has 4 characters total. You're more likely to remember her than a background character, or the barber. But Neon convinced me into it. She's like the most edge case in this entire list, but she's the hottest character in that show. I love her. And then the girl with the maroon beret and exposed shoulders in Zom 100, episodes 9 through 10. I don't think they gave her a name, but she's there, and she's pretty cute. I love how niche these get, and that's the point of the list. They're all stupidly niche, non-existent, barely within their respective shows. You don't even know they exist until you just compile them all. And that's the point of it. And that's my entire meme tier. And so, to get to the bottom of this list, and to the final frontier of this tier list, right? DTF sluts. I love the tier names. They're so stupid. But the way I interpreted this, as I said earlier, is women who I would literally want to live with. That's the point of the tier. And so I've got 4 women here that because here's the thing about waifus. It's always been like a philosophical question to me almost. Is it a girl who you like just in the context of their show, or someone you would literally want to be with? In the Casties 2023, I put Fern as my girl to nominate as like I forget what exactly it was, the category was called, but I don't know, like best waifu, essentially, probably something like that. And I did it based off of who I would literally want to live with in, like out of all the women from that year. Because Akane Kurakawa, if I was thinking of it just in the context of the show, right? Akane Kurakawa would have been top of the list. But I thought about it in the sense of who would I literally want to be my wife? And Fern was the biggest one from that season, right? And so, and I didn't even mention her on this list. I'm probably missing so many characters who I would put on this list. Fern could probably go in the amazing tier. She could probably fit in. But at the same time, she's a seasonal waifu, which I think detracts from her value. Whereas if I waited a while and really let her ferment in my mind, maybe then I'd be more willing to put her on a tier list. But, you know, she was the one who I would literally like living with. And so, out of all the anime girls of all time, not just in the 2023 season, there are 4 that I picked out, one of which wasn't even on this list so far, but that I thought about and decided I would want to live with her. Kaoru Tsunashi from I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying. She has this attitude towards her husband in that show where, you know, she sort of sees him as, like, she doesn't get what all this otaku bullshit is, but she accepts it, and she like, you know, supports his hobby and his passion of writing his fucking blog. And I think that's really sweet, and I would love it if someone were like that to me in real life. And, you know, on the one hand, right, like, it does feel a little weird to put her in when it's like, oh, but she and the husband from that show, I forget his name, you know, them two have such a perfect dynamic, though. I don't want to split them up, but it's like, at the same time, no, I'm also kind of an otaku, so I could have that same dynamic, and that's super appealing to me. Tsubasa Hanakawa. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, she wasn't in the Elder God tier, right? That's because she cuts her hair. But if I'm thinking in terms of literally who I would want to live with, first of all, if it's a real person, right? If we're imagining this hypothetical scenario. If I'm imagining that, I don't fucking care if you cut her hair. Like, it's whatever, you know, you don't have to look perfect at all times, right? If I'm thinking about it in terms of real life people. And that's why she gets on the list, as well as me just resonating with her personality. She's a bit neurotic, but at the same time, she gets over it by the end of the show. She's in a better place mentally by that point. And so it's not like Akane Kurakawa, where at the point I am in Oshinoko, she has not gone through her issues, and so she'd be too neurotic for me to reasonably have a relationship with. with Tsubasa Hanakawa, it's like, oh, well, she, got over it, more or less, became a more well-rounded person. And so, I could see myself living with her. That's the point of this tier. Kobayashi Dragon Maid, just because she'd give me the most sage life advice at all times. We could chill out on the couch. I think I'd have a reasonably good relationship with her. And, funnily enough, I ended up excluding Hifumi Takamoto from this list. And you may be asking, why, right? The reason why is because Hifumi, by nature of being a new game, is probably a lesbian. And so, just through that nature alone, would probably be excluded from the list. I was lying when I said 4, by the way, I miscounted. Osaka Azumanga Daioh would be hilarious to live with. She, by the end of the series, is, I think, within my age range. I'm 19. So it works out in the end. Speaking of that, I think Kobayashi is too old for me. But whatever, we can just pretend. We can annihilate the age gap in our collective imaginations. And finally, we have Minami Nanami from Tomozaki. Because she's literally me. And we would understand each other perfectly. We'd have a great dynamic. And also, she's way more energetic than I am. And that'd be fun to witness. So yeah, that's the tier list. This went on unreasonably long just due to the nature of it being a tier list. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.